Hi, welcome to the part 6 of this video series where we are covering the AWS Solution Architect questions. So these questions are practice questions which are very important to build your concepts. This video series will help you boost your chances of clearing the exam by many folds. AWS has a big set of repository which they use, and the questions keeps varying person to person, exam to exam. Hence, it is important that you clarify or clear your concepts instead of just rectifying the answers. You should clear the concepts because if your concepts are clear, you'll be able to answer any questions and any surprises. You'll be able to take it without any hassles. Like I explained in my videos, I'm going to decode the problem statement. We will look at the options. We will look at the concepts for each option. So if there are suppose 100 questions that I'm going to cover, and if there are four options per question, then approximately we will be covering 400 concepts. That is a good enough number to clear the exam. Now let's look at question number 35. For questions 1 to 34, please browse through my previous videos, parts 1 to 5. I would request you to pause the video here so that you can read the question carefully. So basically, the question is saying there is an application which is on EC2 instances behind ALB, and there is auto scaling group being used. So the auto scaling group is deployed in multiple AZs. There are workloads which run first of every month, and if you see the CPU utilization gets to the peak of 100%, which disrupts the application. So as a solution architect, you need to recommend some solution. So the first option says that you have to use Amazon CloudFront, which will not work here because CloudFront is mainly used from a caching standpoint if the application is trying to do a lot of reads which are consistently reading across similar files, which is not the case here because in this case we are doing a calculation in a batch process manner. So the calculation actually means that we are going to perform compute. Hence A will not work. B says both B and C might work. So we'll look at these two options later. Let's scan option D. You need to configure Elasticache to remove some of the workload from the EC2 instances. So the Elasticache works with databases and not with EC2 instances. Primarily, if you have databases like DynamoDB or Aurora, you can use Elasticache. What Elasticache does is if there are similar SQLs being fired across to the databases, so it caches the data so that the load on the databases are reduced. Now, if you see option C and D, one is saying a simple scaling policy needs to be used, and the other is saying a scheduled scaling policy needs to be used. So what's happening is when the load goes for on at night, there are supposed two EC2 instances and both gets occupied, so it hits 100%, and it disrupts because it is still waiting for the ASG to warm up and start new instances. So which sort of ASG will help here? If you use simple scaling, then what it means is unless the load exceeds the threshold, the new EC2 instance is not created. That is simple scaling. That will not work here. So in this case, we'll have to use schedule scaling because we perfectly know that this is the time slot when we need more instances. So what we'll do is we will set the warm up of these instances, and these instances will be ready at this time period so that there is no disruption for the application. Hence option C is the correct answer. This is the final answer. I would request you to subscribe my videos because if there are similar videos coming in, it will be easier for you to get notifications on. Always remember to clarify your concepts instead of ratifying the answers. Now let's switch to question number 36. You may choose to pause the video here if you want to read it carefully. Basically what it says is the current system is not a real-time system. So what's happening is there are a set of applications and they are getting sending data to a batch process, and then the batch process is sending the data to Redshift. Okay, and post that business analysts are using this data. Now the requirement is to make this real time or near real time. So if you see the keyword here, near real time data processing, so whenever you have to do near real time, you have to use Kinesis. In this case, this if you see these options, Kinesis, that is the answer. So EC2 and Lambda is way off here from this question standpoint, because EC2 usually is used for batch processing. If you have some ETLs deployed on EC2, then it gets used for that, and Lambda is also used for some sort of batch processing, though it has a time limit of 15 minutes. Any job that takes more than 15 minutes will be aborted. So EC2 and Lambda are not a fit here. So data analytics is used post the data is put in Redshift and etc. So in this case, data analytics is not the right option. Streams and firehose are the right options. So now let's see how streams fit into this diagram. So you have the set of applications, and we make it real time. We put plug streams. So streams will collect the data from here, from this place, from these applications on I would say it works real time or near real time, and then Firehose is used to dump the data to Redshift. Okay, post which the business analysts can use these data sets. So this is how you will convert it into near real time. You plug these two components in between. Instead of the batch process, you are replacing it with a near real time process. So we will go ahead with C and D as our final options. Now let's jump to question number 37. Now you may choose to pause the video here if you want to read the question carefully. Basically, this question says that your application is on EC2 instances, which is deployed on multiple regions, multiple AZs, and then you have ALB here, and your database is a Aurora database. So this picture is from Norway, and this is called Aurora, and this database is Aurora database. Now, the pain point here is they want this system to be resilient so that periodic increases in the request rates can be handled. So let's look at the options here. So basically, if there are more requests coming in, let's see the diagram. If there are more requests coming in, then this application, the system should be able to handle it. Let's look at the options here. Shield is useful from a security standpoint to prevent DDoS attacks. So that is this is not a security question. So Shield is way off. Aurora replica is usually used if you want to divert the read replicas uh, or the request for reads to the read replicas. This is not a question of read replica. You want to make it resilient so that there are periodic increases in the request rates can be handled. So let's look at other options. Direct connect. It is used to create a private secure network between the on-premises and the client, a very different purpose. We have to choose two options, so this leaves us with these two options: Global Accelerator and CloudFront. How will Global Accelerator work here? Now let's see this diagram. So in case of if you're not using a global accelerator, then all the requests are going through the network to the EC2 instances from the users. Right? And if so, this goes to the internet. Now in case of global accelerator, the communication is made through the data centers of Amazon. So if you see, this is a global accelerator. So it doesn't go via internet. So via internet, what happens is your speed can be slow or fast depending upon the internet connection. But if you're using a global accelerator, the speed is guaranteed because it is traveling through the data centers of Amazon themselves, and finally it reaches EC2 instances. Hence, we use global accelerator. D is the right option because this will provide you resiliency even if the number of requests increases, the speed will not get impacted in this case. And CloudFront ensures that it is using edge locations and some sort of caching is being used, so that in this case, even if there are certain requests for reads, it will help with the request rates to provide performance. So options D and E are our final options. These are the answers. Now let's see question number 38. I would request you to pause the video because this is a big question. Please take some time to read this question by pausing the video. Basically, what the question is saying is there are a lot of applications on premises, and each application is having 50 terabytes of data, and these data sets needs to be moved to AWS to set up the client's own infrastructure on the AWS environment. Now, when we try to answer this question, please remember there are two ways of communication between the on-premises and the client and the AWS. One is VPN based, and the other is direct connect based. So, what is the difference? VPN makes use of internet, and direct connect makes use of AWS's own data centers. This is a difference between the two. Both provides encrypted connections, but there are different protocols being followed. See here, we do not know how many number of applications needs to be moved, but one thing we know is the entire move has to be happening within a month. So if you have to do it within a month, and if you're relying on any of the internet connections or direct connect, it will not work. It will take a lot longer time to move it over the network. So the one-time move always has to be on the snowball, using the snowball. Now, what is a snowball? This is snowball. This is a device which, once you request, the AWS would courier it to your campus, and then you can plug the network and start copying the data to these devices. Now, since it's a terabyte scale data, so Snowball will work. But if there are petabyte scale data, then you have to use Snowmobile, which is a truck which comes to your campus, and you can plug it to a network. Always remember that Snowball is faster than compared to over the network, because Snowball, you will bring it to your campus, connect it to the network which is within your campus, and then you just transfer the data and then send it to the data centers of AWS, where they just remove these devices and plug it to the own AWS cloud network. So this is way they are going to transfer the data, which will happen within a month, because since you have a time constraint of a month, that's why we have to use Snowball. If you didn't have a time constraint of a month, suppose you had 6 months for the data transfer, we could have used Direct Connect for both initial and ongoing connectivity. Now the solution is asking that you have to do one-time data migration as well as ongoing network connectivity. So for ongoing network connectivity, we have to use AWS Direct Connect. This is the right answer. The reason for that is because you see this keyword secure network connectivity. This is one. The other is consistent throughput across your data centers. Consistent throughput you can only get if you are traveling across your own AWS data centers. If you travel it through internet, because if internet is impacted because of too many number of users, etc., then you cannot guarantee consistent throughputs. That's why if you want to guarantee the consistent throughputs, it has to be through direct connect, which traverses through its own data centers. So we have established here why option A is wrong, because you have to do the initial transfer of using the Snowball. Even option B is wrong because they are not doing the initial data transfer using Snowball. Anything using the network will take a lot of time, because each application is 50 terabytes and the number of applications is not known, and you have to do the entire data migration within a month. And D is wrong because even though they are using Snowball for the initial data transfer, site-to-site VPN will not provide you the secure network connectivity with consistent throughput, because it will traverse through the internet. That's why we are going with our option C as our final answer. Let's jump to question number 39. This is an easy vanilla question. You may pause this video to read this question properly. So basically, this question is very simple. It has an application which runs on EC2 instances, and there is a database which is stored. I mean, the data stores all data on multiple instances, so that it can withstand a loss of instance. So the key here is the database requires block storage, and if you see, the block storage here is only EBS. There is a elastic block store. Remaining are not block storages. Let's see EBS first. The full form of EBS is elastic block store, and it stores data in blocks. If you see EC2 instance store, EC2 instance store is a temporary store which is just similar to a cache, and it has a limit on the storage. It cannot store terabytes of data. So if you switch off the instance, the EC2 instance store will be lost. So this option is not correct. EFS is a file system and not a block store, and S3 is an object store and not a block store. That's why EBS is the right option here. This is our final answer, option A. Now let's quickly jump to question number 40. Please pause the video here if you want to read the question carefully at your leisure. Basically, if you have read the question now, you must have understood that this question is about unpredictability. So the database growth is also unpredictable, and as well as the request patterns for the services also cannot be predicted. So it may be sometimes more, it may be sometimes less. Similarly, the growth of the database, though initially it is 1 GB, but in future it can grow, and we cannot predict if it will grow by 2 GB per month or per year, or it will grow by 10 GB per year, etc. That is not known in this case. But one thing is known is data should be queried using simple key value requests. So here we have to choose two options, and our two options are Lambda and DynamoDB. The reason for that is because DynamoDB is a key value. If you see this key value request, only DynamoDB fits in here. MySQL will not fit in because MySQL is a SQL based database. That is point number one. The other thing is, if you're looking for unpredictable future growth, DynamoDB is very flexible. It is a serverless database, so you can plan it for if it is unpredictable, you can plan for that. But for MySQL, Amazon Aurora, you have to predict. You have to define a capacity, and you can scale up the capacity up and down, but it is not as elastic as DynamoDB. Second is, it is a SQL based database, and the question is asking for key value request. That's why DynamoDB fits the bill here. So these are the reasons why DynamoDB is fitting the bill here, because it's a key value store, and the other is it has unpredictable growth. That's why it will supported. Now EC2 instances, we use EC2 instances if we know that the workloads are predictable. But if the workloads, I mean, it does provide some sort of elasticity by using auto scaling groups. But Lambda gives you, if you have unpredictable workloads, then Lambda is the best because it is a serverless application and it will give you a lot of cost savings. So since both Lambda and DynamoDB works very well if the requirements are unpredictable, so these two are our last and final options. These are the answers actually. This brings us to the end of part 6. Please subscribe to my channel and like my video if this video is making sense. Please remember that this exam is a tough one, so clearing the concepts is the only way to pass this exam successfully. We'll see you in the part 7 of this video series. Till then, I'm signing off.